Have you ever stood at the edge of something that felt impossible? Maybe it was a tough conversation you kept putting off, a goal that felt too big to chase, or even a new habit you swore you'd start but never did. That moment, when you know exactly what needs to be done, but every part of you wants to turn away, is where most people stop. It's easier to scroll, to distract yourself, to wait for some magical burst of motivation, but deep down, you know the truth. If you always stop there, nothing ever changes. Our brains are wired to resist hard things. They crave safety, comfort, and the path of least resistance. And in today's world, comfort is everywhere: on-demand entertainment, endless distractions, even shortcuts to solve problems we don't want to face. It's no wonder we avoid what's difficult. But here's the thing. Every time you choose ease over effort, you're teaching your brain that comfort is king. And what does that cost you? Opportunities, growth, the chance to become the person you know you're capable of being. What if you could change that? What if you could train your mind to see hard things not as obstacles, but as opportunities, to embrace discomfort as the price of progress? It's not easy, and it won't happen overnight, but it's possible. And more than that, it's necessary. Because the life you want, the growth you seek, the strength you admire in others, it's all on the other side of doing the hard things you've been avoiding. In this piece, we're going deep into why it's so hard to face resistance, what happens when we avoid it, and, most importantly, how to retrain your brain to take it on. This isn't just about willpower, it's about rewiring your mind to work with you, not against you. It's about reclaiming your ability to act, even when it's uncomfortable. If you've ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or afraid to take that first step, this is for you. Before we begin, please subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss out on more amazing videos like this. Let's get started. The weight of avoidance. What's one hard thing you've been avoiding, and why? Maybe it's a difficult conversation you've been dreading, a workout you promised yourself you'd start, or a project that's been sitting untouched on your to-do list for weeks. Whatever it is, chances are you've found every excuse to sidestep it. You tell yourself you'll get to it tomorrow, but tomorrow never feels any easier. And deep down, you know this isn't just about being busy or not reading, it's about the weight of avoidance, a quiet, heavy resistance that keeps pulling you away from the things you know you should do. Take a moment to think about this. How often do you catch yourself in that pattern? Here's a simple example. You set a goal to exercise more, so you pack your gym clothes and tell yourself, this is the day. But when the time comes, you find reasons to delay. I'm too tired. I'll go after I finish this episode. It's just one day, it doesn't matter. Before you know it, a single missed workout snowballs into weeks of inaction. And the irony? Avoiding the discomfort only makes it harder to start the next time. The truth is, avoidance feels good, at least for a moment. It's like a quick exhale of relief. Not today, but that relief is fleeting, and it comes with a cost. Every time we avoid hard things, we reinforce a powerful message in our minds: discomfort is dangerous, and we should run from it. This isn't your fault. It's how the human brain works. For centuries, our survival depended on avoiding pain and conserving energy. But in a world where physical survival is rarely at stake, this instinct often works against us. Instead of protecting us, it holds us back. And here's the part we don't talk about enough. Growth is the kind of growth that makes life richer and more meaningful only happens when we confront discomfort. That tough conversation you've been avoiding, it could lead to a deeper understanding. That project you keep putting off, it could open doors you never imagined. But the cost of avoidance is always the same: stagnation. And over time, stagnation becomes regret. If you're tired of that cycle, know this: pushing past resistance is a skill, not a talent. It's not about willpower, it's about learning to recognize discomfort as a signal and not to retreat, but to lean in. The hard things you're avoiding aren't obstacles, they're invitations to grow. Why hard things are hard? Why is it so hard to start that project, have that conversation, or stick to that habit you know could change your life? It's not because you're lazy or incapable. The truth is, your brain is designed to avoid hard things. It's wired to keep you safe, conserve energy, and chase instant gratification. This served our ancestors well when survival depended on conserving strength and steering clear of danger. But in today's world, Where growth requires discomfort, this same wiring can hold us back. At the core of this resistance is a simple concept. Your brain loves the path of least resistance. Every time you avoid something hard, you get a small rush of relief. That rush is dopamine, a chemical reward for staying in your comfort zone. Dopamine isn't inherently bad. It's what makes us feel good when we achieve something or enjoy a favorite activity. But modern life is full of cheap dopamine: social media, video games, binge-worthy shows, even endless snacks. They all deliver hits of dopamine with minimal effort. Why work on a challenging task when you can scroll through your feed and get an instant sense of reward? But here's the catch. Easy dopamine comes at a cost. It tricks your brain into thinking you're achieving something, even when you're standing still. Meanwhile, the tasks that could truly change your life, via writing that novel, committing to a fitness routine, building a skill, require sustained effort without instant payoff. Your brain interprets these as threats because they feel hard and uncertain, so it nudges you toward easier options instead. Think of your brain like a muscle. When you consistently choose the easy route, you weaken its ability to handle effort and discomfort. It's like skipping the gym every day for years, so you'll lose strength over time. But when you consistently choose to push through hard tasks, even in small ways, you're training your brain to tolerate discomfort and grow stronger. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher and Roman emperor, understood this well. He believed that obstacles weren't barriers but opportunities to build strength. The impediment to action advances action, he wrote. What stands in the way becomes the way. Modern distractions, however, make this mindset even harder to embrace. The world today is designed to cater to avoidance. Algorithms on social media are engineered to keep you scrolling. Apps make every convenience available at the tap of a button. Entertainment is endless, and instant gratification is always within reach. These distractions aren't just convenient, they're addictive, and the more we lean on them, the more we lose our ability to face discomfort head-on. Let's take someone who's never exercised a day in their life. For example, one day, they decide to run a marathon. They lace up their shoes, hit the track, and within minutes they're overwhelmed, out of breath, and ready to quit, and not because they're incapable, but because their muscles aren't trained for the task. The same is true for your brain. If you've spent years avoiding hard things, it's not surprising that facing one feels overwhelming. But just as the body grows stronger with consistent training, so does the mind. Doing hard things builds a kind of psychological resiliency, a mental toughness that only comes from effort. It's not about being born with an extraordinary ability to focus or persevere. It's about showing up every day, even when it's hard, and proving to yourself that you can. Think about a time when you pushed through something difficult, a time when you wanted to give up but didn't. Maybe it was finishing a tough exam, navigating a rocky relationship, or sticking with a fitness goal. Do you remember how it felt afterward? That sense of pride and accomplishment, that's not just emotional, it's neurological. Every time you face resistance and keep going, you're rewiring your brain to associate effort with reward, not just discomfort. This is why hard things are hard. They demand more than skill or knowledge. They require courage, the courage to face uncertainty, discomfort, and even failure. They demand sustained effort in a world that tempts you with shortcuts. But the rewards of doing hard things are unmatched. They don't just build achievements, they build character. So, the next time you feel resistance creeping in, remind yourself of this. The challenge you're facing isn't just an obstacle, it's an opportunity to train your mind, to build strength, and to grow. As Marcus Aurelius taught, the obstacle truly is the way. Choose to lean in, even when every part of you wants to turn away. Hard things don't just make life better, they make you better. The cost of avoidance. Every time you avoid something hard, it feels harmless. You tell yourself it's just this once, that there's plenty of time to get back on track. But the truth is, avoidance doesn't stay small, it grows. One skipped task turns into two. One delayed conversation becomes months of silence. Before you know it, the things you avoided have quietly shaped your life in ways you never intended. Avoidance may offer a fleeting sense of relief, but it comes with a heavy price: missed opportunities, stalled growth, and, worst of all, regret. Think of life like a garden. When you show up and do the work of planting, Watering, weeding you create something beautiful and alive, but when you avoid tending to it, weeds take over. The neglect doesn't show immediately. For a while, it might even seem like everything's fine, but slowly, the garden transforms, the flowers wilt, the soil dries up, and the weeds spread until they choke out everything you once cared about. Avoidance works the same way. It creeps in quietly, convincing you that skipping a hard thing today won't matter, but over time, the things you neglect become harder to salvage. Let's take this for example. A friend of mine had always dreamed of starting her own business. She had the ideas, the skills, and even the resources to begin. But every time she sat down to work on it, she found reasons to delay. "I'll wait until I have more time," she'd say, or, "I just need to learn a little more before I start." Weeks turned into months, and months turned into years. When she finally decided to start, she found herself overwhelmed. Her industry had shifted. Her confidence had eroded, and the regret of waiting weighed heavily on her. The garden she'd imagined had been overrun by weeds of fear, doubt, and missed opportunities. Today, avoidance is easier than ever. We live in a culture obsessed with ease and efficiency. There's an app for everything: cooking, exercising, even thinking. Artificial intelligence promises to simplify the most complex tasks, and entertainment is available on demand, 24/7. While these conveniences are helpful, they also make it dangerously easy to sidestep challenges. Why learn a new skill when you can outsource it? Why face discomfort when distraction is just a swipe away? The constant pursuit of ease teaches us that struggle is unnecessary and that everything hard can and should be avoided. But this mindset has a cost. It robs us of the chance to grow. Growth doesn't happen in comfort zones. It happens when you face resistance, when you struggle, and when you choose to show up even when it's hard. Think about the people you admire: athletes, artists, innovators. None of them got to where they are by avoiding challenges. They leaned into them. They chose the hard path, knowing that the struggle itself would make them stronger. Avoidance may feel good in the moment, but it doesn't build anything lasting. And that's the real tragedy of avoidance. It compounds. When you avoid one hard thing, it becomes easier to avoid the next. Over time, this pattern of inaction creates stagnation, a life where you're standing still while the world moves on around you. Worse, it breeds regret. The things you avoid don't just disappear. They linger in the back of your mind, growing heavier with time. You start to wonder what might have been if you'd acted sooner, if you'd faced the discomfort instead of running from it. So, how do you break free from this cycle? It starts with recognizing that avoidance is never a neutral choice. When you avoid something hard, you're not just delaying it, you're choosing to let it grow into something harder. But when you face it, even in small ways, you reclaim control. It's like pulling weeds from the garden. The work may be tiring and uncomfortable, but it clears space for growth, for beauty, and for life to thrive. Avoidance is seductive because it promises short-term relief, but that relief is a lie. The longer you avoid a challenge, the more power it gains over you. Facing hard things, on the other hand, doesn't just solve problems, it strengthens you. It proves to yourself that you're capable, that you can handle resistance and come out better on the other side. So, the next time you catch yourself avoiding something, pause and ask, what will this cost me if I don't face it now? The answer might not feel urgent at the moment, but over time, the weight of avoidance adds up. Choose instead to show up, to do the work, to tend to the garden of your life. It won't be easy, but it will always be worth it. Rewiring your brain for discomfort. If avoiding hard things comes easy, that's because it is. Over time, your brain has learned to steer you away from discomfort. It's not a personal flaw, it's a deeply ingrained survival mechanism. But just like any habit, it can be unlearned. The key is rewiring your brain to see discomfort as something valuable rather than something to escape. It's a process. And yes, it's hard, but it's also transformative. Let's take an example. You're standing at the base of the mountain. The summit is where you want to be: a completed project, a healthier body, a stronger relationship, or a skill you've always wanted to learn. But from where you stand, the peak looks impossibly far. You can't climb it in one leap. The only way to reach the top is by taking small, intentional steps, one after another. Rewiring your brain works the same way. It's not about sudden, dramatic change. It's about committing to the climb, even when it feels slow and uncertain. The first step is simple but not always easy. You need to face what you're avoiding. Is it a conversation you've been putting off, a task you've been procrastinating on, or a habit you've been meaning to build? Write it down. Be honest with yourself. Sometimes the hardest part is admitting what you've been running from. To make this step less overwhelming, try this. Imagine you're looking at your life from the outside. What would a wise friend or mentor say you've been avoiding? Often, we're too close to our struggles to see them clearly. A little perspective can make all the difference. Recognizing what you're avoiding isn't about judging yourself, it's about understanding where you need to start. When Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. He was reminding us that change begins within. You can't control how hard something feels, but you can control whether or not you face it. Once you've identified what you're avoiding, the next step is to shrink it down. One of the biggest reasons we avoid hard things is because they feel too big, too overwhelming. The solution? Break them into smaller, manageable pieces. Let's say you've been avoiding starting a fitness routine. Instead of thinking about transforming your body or committing to a year-long program, focus on just 15 minutes of movement today. That's it, just 15 minutes. When the task feels smaller, your brain is less likely to resist it. This approach works for anything. Writing a report? Start with just the first paragraph. Cleaning your house? Focus on one corner of one room. Tackling a conversation? Begin by planning what you want to say. Each small step chips away at the mountain, bringing the summit closer. Think of it like training for a marathon. You don't run 26 miles on day 1. You start with 1 mile, then 2, building strength and endurance as you go. Similarly, breaking hard tasks into smaller steps helps you build mental endurance. The process is slow, but progress is progress. One of the most powerful ways to rewire your brain is to reward it for effort, not just results. When you celebrate small wins, you're retraining your brain's reward system. Instead of craving instant gratification from distractions, it starts associating effort with a sense of achievement. For example, if you spent 15 minutes working on something you've been avoiding, acknowledge that. Say to yourself, "I showed up, and that matters." If you completed the first step of a larger project, permit yourself to feel proud. These small celebrations might seem trivial, but they're not. They reinforce the habit of effort and build momentum for the next step. This process ties directly to dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. By celebrating progress, no matter how small, you're giving your brain a natural hit of dopamine. Over time, this creates a new association. Discomfort leads to progress, and progress feels good. Let's be honest, none of this is easy. Facing discomfort is messy, unpredictable, and often frustrating. There will be days when you feel stuck, when progress feels slow, when you wonder if it's even worth it. But here's the truth. It is worth it. And those hard moments are where the real transformation happens. Progress doesn't have to be perfect to be meaningful. Even if you stumble, even if you have to start over, you're still moving forward. It's like climbing a mountain in bad weather. You might slip, you might take a wrong turn, but every step upward gets you closer to the summit. And when you finally look back, you'll see how far you've come. The path of embracing discomfort is one that many remarkable people have walked. Think of athletes like Michael Jordan, who famously said, "I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." Jordan didn't avoid the hard work, it was his relentless effort in the face of discomfort that made him a legend. Or consider an entrepreneur like Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx. She started with nothing but an idea and faced rejection after rejection before her business took off. Instead of letting fear or doubt stop her, she leaned into the challenges, using them as fuel to keep going. These examples aren't just inspiring stories, they're proof that facing hard things, even when it's uncomfortable, leads to extraordinary results. The people we admire aren't superhuman, they've simply trained their minds to embrace discomfort and keep moving forward. Stoic wisdom teaches us an essential lesson about hard things. Focus on what you can control and let go of what you can't. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." You can't control how hard something feels, but you can control how you respond to it. This mindset is liberating. It shifts your focus away from the obstacles themselves and onto the actions you can take. It reminds you that progress isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Rewiring your brain for discomfort doesn't happen overnight. It's a process that requires consistent, intentional effort. But the good news is, your brain is adaptable. It can learn to see discomfort not as a threat, but as an opportunity. Start small. Identify one hard thing you've been avoiding and take the first step. Break it into manageable pieces. Celebrate every bit of progress, no matter how small. And when resistance creeps in, remind yourself of the summit of the growth, the strength, and the fulfillment that comes from doing hard things. Discomfort isn't the enemy, it's a sign that you're on the right path. Keep climbing. You're stronger than you think. How hard things build resilience. Growth doesn't come from the staying comfortable, it comes from resistance of the moments when life pushes back, when things feel uncertain, when you want to give up but choose to keep going. Those are the moments that shape you. Resilience, the ability to bounce back and grow stronger, is not something you're born with, it's something you build, and hard things are the weights you lift to strengthen it. Resilience is like a muscle. If you never challenge it, it stays weak. Think of someone who avoids physical activity entirely. Their muscles atrophy, their stamina dwindles, and even the smallest tasks, climbing a flight of stairs, carrying groceries, feel overwhelming. Now, imagine the opposite. Someone who trains consistently. They don't just grow stronger physically, they build confidence, endurance, and the ability to handle greater challenges over time. The same is true for your mental and emotional resilience. It only grows when you push it. I once faced a moment that tested me in ways I never expected. It was my first major public speaking event. I had always been someone who avoided the spotlight, terrified of saying the wrong thing or being judged. But this opportunity was too important to pass up. In the weeks leading up to the event, I was riddled with anxiety. Every time I practiced, my mind would race with what ifs. What if I forget everything? What if I fail? The night before, I barely slept. Everything in me wanted to back out, to avoid the discomfort altogether. But I didn't. I showed up, heart pounding, voice shaking, and started speaking. And something incredible happened. I got through it. It wasn't perfect, but it didn't need to be. That moment taught me something profound. Resilience isn't about being fearless, it's about feeling the fear, the discomfort, the resistance, and doing it anyway. When it was over, I realized the challenge had left me stronger. The next time I faced a similar situation, the fear was still there, but it was smaller. I had proven to myself that I could endure. What hard things teach us. Doing hard things isn't just about achieving a goal, it's about who you become along the way. Each challenge you face reshapes you, teaching you to navigate discomfort with patience and purpose. Hardship forces you to sit with your emotions of fear, frustration, and self-doubt without letting them dictate your actions. Over time, this quiet endurance strengthens your emotional core, showing you that you're capable of more than you thought. Facing resistance also sharpens your ability to adapt. When obstacles arise, you learn to think differently, to find a way forward, even when the path feels blocked. The solutions don't always come easily, but that's the point. Each time you confront the hard thing, instead of turning away, you're teaching your mind that challenges aren't walls, they're stepping stones. The Stoics believed that hardship is not something to fear but something to embrace. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This mindset reframes difficulty, not as a punishment, but as an invitation to grow. Resistance isn't there to stop you, it's there to strengthen you. Imagine lifting a heavy weight for the first time. At first, your muscles strain and burn, and the task feels impossible. But with each repetition, the muscles adapt, growing stronger and more capable. Life's challenges work the same way. The struggles you face today might feel overwhelming, but they're preparing you for bigger obstacles down the road. With every hard thing you conquer, you're building a reservoir of strength you didn't know you had. Resilience isn't about seeking out suffering. It's not about pushing yourself to the breaking point just to prove something. Instead, it's about recognizing that discomfort is a necessary part of growth. The hard thing in front of you might not get easier, but you get stronger. It's easy to look at people who seem resilient, athletes, entrepreneurs, leaders and assume they were born that way. But that's not the case. Their resilience was built through countless moments of struggle and perseverance. Each failure, each setback, each moment of doubt became a brick in the foundation of their strength. When you embrace hard things, you're not just overcoming a single challenge, you're changing how you respond to challenges altogether. You're teaching yourself to see resistance not as something to fear, but as something to welcome. That doesn't mean it's easy or painless. Progress rarely is, but it's worth it. The next time you face something hard, remind yourself, this is how resilience is built. Every step you take, every moment you endure, every challenge you face is making you stronger. The hard thing in front of you is not the enemy, it's the path. Every step you take, no matter how small, is a step closer to the person you want to become. Keep showing up, keep practicing. The hard things will always be hard, but you'll get stronger, and that strength will be worth every ounce of effort. Embrace discomfort for growth. You've now learned that doing hard things isn't just about willpower. It's about training your mind to see discomfort as a powerful signal for growth. Every time you face resistance, you're not just tackling a task, you're building resilience, strength, and character. Remember, the hard things you're avoiding aren't obstacles, they're opportunities. And by facing them, you're becoming the person you're meant to be. If you found this video helpful and you're ready to embrace discomfort for growth, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and like the video. Keep pushing forward, and I'll see you in the next one.